All right, everyone, I think we can get started now. Welcome to EarthCorps' virtual Campfire chat. My name is Ethan East, and I am the Core Program Coordinator here at EarthCorps. Before we get into the program, there are a couple of things to note. We're using Zoom webinar tonight, so you will be unable to use your video and microphone functions, but we encourage you to use the chat box on the right side of your screen. At the end of the program, there will be time for you to ask any questions you may have using the chat box. We're very excited that you've all joined us tonight to learn more about EarthCorps' International Corps program. Our International Corps program has been on a 2-year hiatus due to the global pandemic, but this past September, we welcomed 6 passionate and talented young folks from 6 countries to exchange ideas, learn through service, and then return home to implement what they've shared with EarthCorps. Personally, this has been a huge passion project for me this year, as my Corps member year, 2020, was the year that the international program was put on hiatus. So it was super inspiring to hear that several of this year's international participants had applied and were ready to join for my year, but lost the opportunity due to the pandemic. Yet they applied again because they're just that passionate. It's been a very, very fun journey of learning the ins and outs of international hiring, but I'm beyond honored to have been a part of bringing this wonderful program back. And I want to give a huge shout out to EarthCorps' Board of Directors and our Executive Director, Evlyn Andrade, for their vision in bringing the program back this year and all the help and support they provided. We'd also like to thank the Trust for Mutual Understanding, who have supported the International Corps program since 2003. Without their continued support, we wouldn't be able to have the same global reach and impact we've had for the past 20 years. Without further ado, I would be honored to welcome our current International Corps members, Mide, Gabby, Ia, Raphael, Shahina, and Vanessa, along with our Executive Director, Evlyn.
Thanks, Ethan. Hi, everyone. I am EarthCorps' new Executive Director, Evlyn Andrade. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you tonight virtually. We're so excited to have you meet our current International Corps members tonight to learn more about them, their backgrounds, and their experiences with EarthCorps. It's a really exciting time as we have just completed our new strategic plan where we're really focusing on environmental justice and racial equity. And so it's been a pleasure to meet with these folks, and we're really excited to have you meet them. And so I'm very, very pleased to welcome our International Corps members to this Campfire chat. And let's go ahead and get started and have them do introductions. Let's start with Mide.
Thank you, Evlyn. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayomide Arowosegbe. I'm from Nigeria, West Africa. I clocked 29 years old last Friday, so I'm 29 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Ndikontar. I'm 28 years old and I'm Cameroonian, so I come from Cameroon, still West Africa.
My name is Ia. I'm from Georgia, from the Caucasus Mountain. I'm 23 years old.
Yeah, my name is Raphael Lati. I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and I'm 27 years old.
And I'm Gabia Savitskita. I'm 22 years old and I come from Lithuania.
And my name is Shahina. I come from Tajikistan and I'm 23 years old.
Thank you all. I want to start off with a question just to everyone. If you all can just tell us the story about how you heard about EarthCorps, what got you interested, what made you apply to our program?
Yes, I would say the first time I heard about EarthCorps was the year 2018 from an international Corps member alumni in person of Daniel Ajiroba Oladipupo. And his homestay that year, I think 2014, was Jesse Dai. So he's like a mentor to me, like an environmental leader that I respect. So he told me about EarthCorps, that he went through it, and he would recommend that program for me. So I actually applied in 2018, got interviewed in 2019, but I wasn't selected. So, well, I didn't give up, and I applied again this year, 2022, and I'm here in Seattle, Washington for the program.
In 2019, there was a time for me when I started hiking and wanting to be outside and camping and things like that. And I found the application of Trans-Caucasian Trail, which is a cross-boundary hiking trail network in the South Caucasus region. And I joined them. I had no idea what we actually supposed to do there. I just wanted to be outside with some outdoorsy people. And I met like former international crew members of EarthCorps here in Georgia. They worked for Trans-Caucasian Trail. At that time, they were the crew leaders. And then they offered us all the volunteers that if we are interested in trail building and restoration work, there's this kind of nice organization called EarthCorps in Seattle. And if we were interested, we can apply for it. And I did that. And I was selected, but the program itself was canceled because of the pandemic, which was kind of sad. But I applied again this year. And I'm so happy that I'm in this international crew now.
Would anybody else like to share?
I think my story is quite similar to that of ES. I was looking for a new challenge, and then I went online, and then I was looking for opportunities to get out of my comfort zone in Ghana and challenge myself and go out to another country and try new things. So I spoke around in like my organization, and then it looked like sometime earlier, there was somebody that participated in EarthCorps, and I have no idea who that person is, but they encouraged me to apply. So I applied in 2019. I did get it in 2020, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we weren't able to come. And then the program subsequently got postponed indefinitely. And then later in 2022, they reached out, and I was like, yes, I'm interested in like reapplying and coming, because the vision and the goal is the reason why I wanted to come to EarthCorps was still there. And then here I am in Seattle, and I'm really happy to be here.
Gabby, Shahina, or Vanessa, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a similar story in the sense that I applied in 2018 and I didn't get the program. And in 2019, it was stumped due to COVID. So I got caught up in trying to find out trying to search other programs that could possibly give me the same experience. So when I finally got the link from an old alumni who's also a very good friend of mine, Augustina, to say, oh, you can apply again in 2022, I was overjoyed, and I applied and I got it. So I think it's the same, same trend for a lot of us now in the group.
And for me, I used to do field work, but I mainly worked in conservation field with scientists, and I really missed having experience of doing similar work with my peers. And yeah, that's why my current supervisor, who is working on snow leopards conservation, who was here attending this program several years ago, recommended me this program, and that's why I mainly came.
Yeah, my story is not as inspirational as other folks. I just found the program on LinkedIn, and I'm very happy that I stumbled across it because it's amazing.
That's great to hear. I mean, it's amazing to hear different reach, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's alumni, whether it's your mentors, to hear that, the EarthCorps community really does expand across the globe. And this program is extremely competitive. And these folks just bring such a wealth of knowledge and experience. And our team is so lucky to have you all. So thank you for being here. I would like to ask some more little specific questions to some of you. So Mida, I've heard that you are interested in recycling and the circular economy. Can you share a little bit about your background and what sorts of opportunities you've had so far at EarthCorps?
Yes, I would always say my keen interests are in the areas of recycling and circular economy. And back home, I've worked with recycling companies in the collection and recycling of PET bottles, which are bottles, plastic bottles of Coke, Fanta, and all these carbonated drinks, just to take them off the streets in Nigeria. And I also lead an organization called Clan Initiative, Cleaner and Healthier Nature Initiative. And we go around to sensitize people about waste collection and how to segregate their waste for environmental sustainability. And coming to EarthCorps, I was hopeful and thinking of how am I going to connect circular economy or recycling to what EarthCorps does. And fortunately for me, one of the days on the field, I met a site contact who works with King County in person of Matt McDonald. And that day he was talking about wastewater, stormwater, and how the city of Seattle, how they maximize wastewater, how it passes, from different houses to the wastewater treatment plant. And I was interested. I was saying, oh, excuse me, sir, I love what you're saying, and I would love to know more about it. Then he gave me a contact of somebody that works at Bradwater wastewater treatment plant, who also happens to be an EarthCorps alumni. And fortunately, by one way or the other, we had a site tour to Bradwater Center, I think 2 weeks ago or last week. And it was so much of a fascinating experience for me. And I was able to connect dots of circular economy, wastewater, and so many things together. And I also saw different products that Bradwater Center is making out of, circular economy from natural resources, wastewater. And yeah, it's been a very, very awesome time and experience. Yeah, so I'm grateful that I came to EarthCorps, and I'm grateful for EarthCorps linking me to this opportunity to learn more about circular economy. Thank you. Sorry, I think you are muted, Evlyn.
Ah, yes, sorry. No, I was just saying, like, it's so inspiring to hear you talk about how you're connecting the work in your homeland to the work that EarthCorps does and how you've been able to make those connections here. So that's been very nice. Thank you for sharing. Vanessa, I know that you've helped set up permaculture eco-village in your home country of Cameroon. I'm hoping that you can share with the audience, like, what exactly is a permaculture eco-village and how could we implement like similar values in our communities and our homes here in the Puget Sound region?
Sure. I think I'm going to do a combination of definitions. So I'll go by definition. Permaculture is land management and settlement design practice that adopts natural ecosystems. So it's a typical systems thinking approach to management or development or whatever. And an eco-village is a traditional or urban intentional community with the goal of sustainability, be it economic or cultural or social sustainability, or of course, ecological. And so when you put those two together, you have a community where you're striving for sustainability in every sense of the word. And so you mimic natural systems as much as possible. And I was very lucky to have done a training and later on a short internship in this permaculture eco-village back in my country. And there practically you had bioswales to capture water from the farms and send them to the spring, the newly created spring. There was no spring there, so they created a source of water. You had sustainable energy resources, solar energy, wind energy, biogas from the farms. You had waste management and recycling. We would meet up every weekend maybe to do recycle maybe discs or plastics, or learn how to recycle other objects that we had in our different homes. And so it was an experience that just brings you to a lifestyle that is ideal for every human setting. And I see that a lot here in Seattle, with the way there's a collective effort at doing things generally. I see waste management being done. You have different bins that are collected. I see the move towards electrical energy, and also a lot of solar energy initiative. And I think Seattle is definitely on the way there. If there's anything that could lead to this typical permaculture thing, it's the acceptance of our role in the ecosystem. Because someone said something smart the other day, which is that as humans, we're kind of disconnecting ourselves from the ecosystem and considering them as more as resources than as a system which we are part of. So it's just in the mind, I think, because everything that happens here in Seattle is a typical systems way. And yeah, there's also the social aspect of permaculture, which I feel here, the community aspects, the consideration and inclusion of handicapped people, for example, older people. I can see that when I go out on trails, you have those things being put together like that. And I think Seattle is well on the way to that. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I think,
Right.
what you said about our disconnection from the land and seeing it as a system is such a good point. I feel like I am seeing more of a trend, especially in our youth, of the importance of connecting to the land and the ecosystems and seeing ourselves as part of that. So really nice to share that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Gabby, you come from a background in environmental science and social psychology. Can you please speak to how you see those intersecting and the differences that you're seeing in the culture in Lithuania and the US?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first time that I've seen and felt the intersection between those two seemingly very separate sciences was when a couple of years ago I was a part of this research group where we analyzed the engagement of volunteers in one of the biggest bird protection organizations that is actually volunteer run in the Netherlands, where I studied. And one of the main outcomes of our just conversations with those volunteers was how important it is actually to feel a physical and emotional connection to your natural environment. And this really connects to what Vanessa just mentioned, having that connection with your land and having that as part of your identity. And that was quite a big aha moment for me, because me as a Lithuanian, I feel like we are very proud of our forests, even though my country is so small, but we still very value our forests, and we have like over 12 words to describe a distinct type of wood massive. And yeah, it's very clear, and how that also reflects in people's environmental priorities when it comes to, for example, environmental protection acts and different initiatives. People tend to feel more inclined to help cleanups or ancient wood foundation, for example, in their support, whether that would be monetary or contributing their time. And I think that really comes from identifying as a part of, yes, I'm a part of a forest and forest is a part of me. And I think I could really see that coming here to Seattle is quite a universal thing, I believe. However, here I also noticed that there's a whole other layer of indigenous knowledge and culture, and the communities, what kind of connection they have to the land and how much they bring to the table, and how we as community now here in Seattle, we as internationals also need to learn from them and understand what kind of different connections there might be and how differently it could inspire our pro-environmental behaviors. Yeah, I don't know. Like Vanessa also said, it's just so important to stay connected to nature physically and emotionally. And I think doing volunteer events with EarthCorps, for example, is a great way to do that. And I've seen participating in those events with my colleagues has really shown how it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Now you make me want to go see the forest in Lithuania. I'll tell you that much. Forest is my favorite place to be. So if that's something your country's extremely proud of, I feel like I have to go visit. Shahina, I know that you have experience in carrying like a camera for trap research to identify the population of snow leopards. I'm hoping that you can share a little bit more about your background with environmental conservation in the Pamirs and how we can use similar skills here in the Puget Sound region.
Yes, sure. Yeah, lastly, I've been part of camera trap research through which we aim to identify the population of snow leopards that live in Pamir Mountains. And basically, the Pamir Mountains are like among the most important habitats of snow leopards, and that's why it's very important for us to conserve them. And as Gabi said, we also like feel kind of very proud of having certain species in Tajikistan, and one of them is snow leopards. Yeah, so I believe like more than 2 years ago, I started working with Panthera, which is an international organization that implements community-based conservation projects. And this camera trap research, along with the other researches that we did, were like at first to identify how endangered the species are, how do they move, and at the same time to see what kind of conflicts humans in the community, humans and the wildlife have. And then, yeah, only after we know what are the dynamics and how do people and wildlife interact, after that, I will proceed to building that community-based conservation model. And for the US, especially the Puget Sound, I know that Panthera already does a similar work. They're, at least for Panthera, I know that they're doing a huge project that aims at conserving pumas in Western Washington. And then also like they're also looking at the connectivity of pumas through North and South America. Yeah, and what we can definitely implement is, again, bringing this community-based conservation, looking at how people interact with nature and seeing how we can use it to conserve certain species or the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I think, you know, part of our work that is so rewarding for me is that conservation work, right? Preserving our lands and making sure that they're available, not just, you know, for us to enjoy, but for a lot of the endangered species, that the list that continues to get longer. Thank you for that. Ia, I know you mentioned this a little bit, that you worked for the Trans-Caucasian Trail in Georgia, and I know that's a transboundary hiking network. And although native species and forestry is different there than it is here in the Puget Sound region, I'm wondering if you can share what lessons and practices that you've learned that you can bring.
Sure. So I just briefly want to mention how the one volunteering week at Trans-Caucasian Trail kind of changed and upside down all my studies and careers. So I studied public administration and political sciences, but I kind of was not happy about it and was thinking about another opportunities in environmental work, but I had no idea like what this environmental work actually was. So when I participated in this project, I decided that I wanted to do my master in natural resource management and forestry. And one thing when I came here and get to know to those native and invasive species, which are definitely different from the ones that we have in Caucasus, I just realized that restoration work is not just about like native and invasive plants, like removal or planting. I started paying attention to the site, the location where we work, like what was that in the past, like what we have now and what we want to have in the future, and how the restoration work supports relationship between human and nature and how that might be beneficial. and also the restoration work that we are doing here and the conservation work that the EarthCorps does is that it teach us to see all the restoration techniques like manual removal, planting, seeding, mulching, those like technical terms. I just saw through the big scale and as a part of a recovery of the ecosystem. And I think that developing countries like my country we're lacking of these big scale things. And I'm just so happy to have a chance and opportunity to see this big, more strategical point of view of restoration. Yeah, but of course, all the techniques like small things that we are doing here, it's also beneficial, and it might be taken to any countries, even though you have to make a small modifications, but still the theory and the basics remain the same kind of or similar. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's a big reason why the international program is so loved, right? Because it's an exchange, right? You're learning from us, but we're also learning from you about the work that you're doing in your home countries. And then, we can tie in those techniques to our work, and you likewise can tie in what you learn here and take it to your home countries. And just like you said, modify it to make it work for the needs. So thanks for sharing that. Raphael, I understand that you worked at the Ghana Wildlife Society and you were identifying species of birds. I'm wondering if there's anything interesting that you've learned here at EarthCorps about the intersection of flora and fauna in the Puget Sound region.
Yeah, I've learned quite a lot. Most especially, I've learned about the importance of tree planting within the Puget Sound, and how that is and how the certain flora and fauna species depend on the flora that we plant within the Puget Sound. For example, as a avid bird lover, I started birding here. And then one species of interest that came to my attention was the northern goshawk. And then it's reported by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that the goshawk is almost near threatened. It's not listed on the endangered species list, but it's getting there. And it's becoming very concerning. And then when I saw that, I was like, okay, let me just check and read more about the goshawk. So I read about the goshawk and I realized that it usually is in northern Washington, and it doesn't migrate. But then the only movement it does during the winter is to come down towards the south of Washington, or closer to the center of Washington, which is usually around the Puget Sound. And then it likes to roost on coniferous trees, right? And I was like, oh, I just came back from camping, and I planted a lot of coniferous trees, and now I felt like, oh, the trees that I am planting, or the conifers that I am planting, in the next few years to come, is going to provide a home for this northern goshawk. And it was at that point that I realized how interconnected and interdependent, flora and fauna are on each other. And also made me realize that the fact that we were planting the conifers to restore a decommissioned trail, right? That's what the project was about. But then I later realized that, I learned that it's not just only going to help, restore the decommissioned trail in the interim, but in the future, it's going to provide home to the northern goshawk. And it just made me really happy to be a part of this whole experience, to be a part of this whole training program. And I'm very excited to be here. I think my colleagues know I've always been very open and vocal about it. But also not just the northern goshawk, but also some of the water grasses, the vine maples that we plant along the edges of creeks. They provide the perfect amount of shade for salmons to spawn, and you look at all of these things that we're doing, and then you realize that, everything is interconnected, and the work that we do is part of that web. and it's part of that set, and it's very important. You know, and I'm happy to be doing this work with EarthCorps and with EI and all of my other colleagues from all around the world and the American cohorts as well. Very happy.
We're happy to have you all here. Yeah, I mean, there we go. It's another reminder, right, of how the work we do contributes to so much more than just what we see, right? But it's entire ecosystems, and goes back to our mission, right? Our goal is to ensure that nature and all people thrive together. And so I think you're speaking to exactly what our mission is, and it's exciting to hear that you're seeing it in real. Before we go to questions from the audience, I have one more question for all of you. And I'm sure the audience is eager to hear about what's next for you after EarthCorps. What are your plans after the program is completed? What do you plan to do? And we can just go one by one. I can call on you, but whoever wants to start first can go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be a lot of advocacy. I'm always constantly, in rediscovering the kinds of things that I want for myself, redefining them. And so I've discovered a lot of reasons to pursue the very specific things that I've always been thinking about. I've witnessed things on the field. I've been able to maybe see how practically things happen, for example, in cohort dynamics. So I want to pursue a career in therapy, for example. So the advantage for me is that I've really been able to touch the things by hand, as they say in French. There's a lot of research too that is waiting for me. I think that I want to continue with a degree program and, if possible, a PhD in marine ethnoecology or whatever can take me closer to the environment, but also help me to better understand the relationship between humans and their environment. I will also go into a lot of local development, so community-based initiatives. I want to have my own permaculture eco-village someday, and so I'll get started on that, maybe with experience in a forest farm. I've been in contact with the owner of this farm, and I want to be a farm hand for a start and learn what he's doing so I can have my own eco-village someday. So I have a whole lot waiting for me, but I really, really love the resilience and adaptivity that this program has given me, because I have so many ideas and so many prospects to look forward to.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
All right. For me, one of the things that I've learned so far, because we don't just do field work so far in the program, we've also had training sessions, and some of the training sessions that we had about nonprofit management, about leadership, about community engagement was with Miguel, the partnership director, if I'm right. So I've learned so much from him about nonprofit management and community engagement. And one of the things that I had in mind when I was coming to Seattle is to learn what EarthCorps is doing and transfer it back to my organization in Nigeria. So definitely one of the things that I've learned, one of the things that I've seen, and one of the things that I've heard in EarthCorps, I'm definitely going to share with my team, and we're going to find a way to implement that and get that working. And on the side of recycling and circular economy, so far I've seen composting. I've not seen that dimension before, and I've seen opportunities in compost recycling. We don't have too much of that in Nigeria. The focus has been on plastic, cardboard, paper, but I've seen ways or innovations whereby we can do something with compost, especially with food waste in Nigeria. So yes, definitely I'm definitely going to start something around composting in the area of food waste back in Nigeria. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Also, I have been working in bird conservation for almost close to 5 years. And it's more about research and going to the field, gathering data, coming back, writing reports, and then just the report just sits on the shelf whoever I hand them to, or even my desk. Or sometimes I just hand it over to a policy guy, and then I do not follow it up from there. And so one of the main reasons of coming to EarthCorps was to come back and find out what next I wanted to do in my next career plan. And I have identified that I want to go into conservation communication and education, and later in the future I would add some advocacy. I've realized that there's a very big gap between there's a huge gap in communicating science to the non-science audience, and sometimes for me, and when anybody asks me from a non-science background, ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" I always find it very difficult to explain, or should I say, dumb it down for them to understand what I do. And usually I try my best. And then usually when I do, they're very excited about it. But then in my head, I'm like, it's just normal, right? It's the thing that I do. But I realized how not a lot of people know what is going on in terms of the actions towards the fight in the climate crisis that we face today, or the actions that so many organizations like EarthCorps and Ghana Wildlife Society are doing to protecting and saving and conserving habitats and saving species, right? And I am highly motivated to taking all of those information and communicating all of those impacts and actions to the general public, to communities, to and then educating school children, on why there's a need for them to understand conservation and restoration and participate in outdoor restoration activities, and also communicating with adults on why they also need to care and why they also need to teach their kids to care. And also advocacy, working with the government to pass the right bills and right reforms that are going to help us, the scientists, and as the technicians on the field, so that our work doesn't look like it's in vain and it doesn't end up in, as a report on someone else's desk. So something that I'm really looking forward to doing, conservation communication, education, and advocacy.
Yeah. So back to Georgia. As I mentioned, I worked for Trans-Caucasian Trail, and while working on trail maintenance and trail building, we realized that we don't really have people who know about a trail building or importance of the trails and a conservation of the nature in the mountains. And we started a small conservation corps, which is not even close to the conservation corps that here in the US exists, but we're trying. And we already had 2 small cohorts of a local youth people. We trained them, and now they are leading the crews in Georgia. But when I came here, I realized that so many cool things might be done back to Georgia, and everything will be new and challenging for local people. And to be honest, when I was even now, I would be happy to have something like that, like a conservation corps in Georgia, and I would definitely join it. And I know a lot of people who are passionate about it, but we just don't have this kind of conservation corps or organizations who work for ecosystem restoration. So I made great connections here. I got connected to different conservation corps except EarthCorps, and currently I'm working for a handbook, which will be a guide for Georgian conservation corps members, Georgian people. I'm really passionate about it, and I'm so happy that I can give this an opportunity and chance to some people from my country. Another thing that I want to mention is that I study forestry. I have left the last semester, and I had to think about my master thesis. And here in Seattle, I met some US forest researchers who helped me to finally choose the topic of my master's thesis. And thanks to EarthCorps for that, because if not EarthCorps, then I wouldn't be there and I couldn't meet them. And the last thing maybe that I want to mention generally about the program is the thing that actually was noticed and mentioned by my host family that really inspired me, and it's really catching. So my host mom, who was a Peace Corps volunteer in Uganda, said that a Peace Corps is a great program. It gives the US people an opportunity to go to different countries, volunteer there, But then finally, most of them are back to the US. So all those knowledge are accumulated and brought from those countries in the US again. But the EarthCorps International Program is the concept is different. So people are coming here in the US, and you can actually learn a lot from the US, like organizational culture and how the things are working here. Like it gets great experience, and then you can go back to your country and do those kind of cool things there, or at least you can have an idea and inspire others. So that's I think that is really cool concept, and I'm happy that me and all of my colleagues from different countries can benefit from this program. Yeah, and thanks for that opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I'm still part of the research group that is studying snow leopards population, and this winter, right after the EarthCorps program will end, we'll start analyzing our camera trap data for the first time, and I'm so excited about it. Like we'll know maybe, hopefully, approximately how many snow leopards are there in our national park, how do they migrate seasonally, and their gender ratios and things like this, which I'm very excited about. But this is like in short term. In long term, I'm also very grateful for all the opportunities that I got here at EarthCorps, and especially getting those soft skills of teamwork and leadership and environment, because like in at least 2 years or so, I want to go back to school and do my master's in environmental management. And it was very important, at least to experience it, at least in one more country, how environment is managed. Like I was surprised to see how many young people are involved in restoration of parks. And so, yeah. Yeah, so this is my plan.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the things that also inspired me to come to EarthCorps was the fact that they do restoration work not only in natural areas, but also in urban settings, because I'm personally very interested in just urban sustainable development and green infrastructure solutions for cities. And hopefully in the future, I'd like to go into urban forestry and urban natural resource management. I'm still deciding what to do, but working here and seeing how the work is actually being done and just delving into the dirt myself has really inspired me and kind of made me realize, like, yeah, this is my field. This is what I want to do. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Like listening to all of you and what you plan to do afterwards is just so inspirational. Like I can't wait to hear years from now updates from all of you about the work that you've done and achieved in your home countries. We definitely look forward to hearing more. I want to go to questions from the audience. I know we have some that came in via email ahead of time, so I'm going to start with those, and then Ethan will go ahead and go to questions that are in the chat. And this anybody can answer, so whoever wants to answer, just jump in. Someone asked, what has been your favorite thing to do or see so far?
It's not like surprise if I say that I love hiking. And like Seattle is great area to do the things like that. I visited some places with EarthCorps people, with my host family. I went to Mount Rainier, to Snow Lakes, to Rattlesnake Ledge, and I love like how developed the hiking system is. And sometimes people just think that, oh, hiking trails are bad because they disturb the places. I mean, people will anyways go to the mountains, and you'd rather provide one like clear path and a trail for them, so they know that they can disturb this particular area, but the rest of the area and the rest of the vegetations are safe. So it's like both seeing the good examples of how the hiking trails should look like, and also just enjoy all the great nature of Pacific Northwest. that was really like exciting for me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. The next question, what are your bucket list items before leaving the US, whether that's environmental or in general?
Alrighty, for me, I would say on the environmental side, I would love to visit a compost recycling facility to see how it's done here in the United States, and also other solid waste recycling facility on the environmental side. Then on the general side, I think I would love to go to New York City. I love to see the Statue of Liberty and and also visit the UN headquarters. Yeah, I love to see the Statue of Liberty and the UN headquarters. Yeah, and one more thing, the White House. I would love to go to Washington DC to see the White House. Yeah.
I hope you get to do all of that. That's awesome. And then the last question that we got in advance is, what is the main takeaway so far that you're going to bring home with you?
Yeah, I'm taking a lot away, definitely. Every chance I've got to witness anything or to do anything has been an opportunity to learn. And so I will take away the very deep friendship that I have with my host family, especially my host mom, talking into late hours of the night with her about everything and nothing, and great friends that I've made here and connected on very profound things to me, and the people who have validated my ideas, I'm definitely taking them with me. I am taking away the resilience that I've seen here in the face of poor weather. It's just people just keep going no matter what the weather is. And for us Cameroonians, we kind of shy away from harsh, extremes, rain and sun and whatever, but people around here just keep going. That's very inspiring for me. And definitely my newfound self as well. That's what I'm taking back home. I'm definitely not the same person I was when I got in here, and my family is going to see a new person, right?
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. And for those of you in the audience, like that just goes to show how important host families are, right? It's not just the EarthCorps experience that matters, but it really is about those of you that are out there that welcome our international corps members into your home and make them part of your families. I have met so many international members who literally continue to be in contact and really are part of the family still. So just putting a little plug out there that we need you all to be hosts for our corps members, and they truly love it. So thank you. And then I think that's the last question we got in advance. And then Ethan, I think you've got some questions from the audience in the chat, right?
Yeah, I did get a few questions from you all in the Q&A section. So I'd like to ask a few of those to the international folks. The first one here is, what can people in the US do to support restoration and conservation programs in your home countries?
I have some ideas like how we, like, developing countries and less experienced countries can benefit from the experience that is gathered in the US. Like, for example, the conservation corps that we want to develop. I would love to have the exchange programs like that the EarthCorps has for the international people, because it's really inspiring when you are in the middle of the mountains far from the US, because conservation corps is really American thing, even though there are a lot of nice landscapes in Europe and in even in my region. I don't really know any conservation corps programs either in Europe or in the Caucasus. So it will be super motivational especially for young people to see that, oh, there are other people the same age as me, and they are actually involved in the conservation work. And sometimes people think that if you work for environmental field, you can't earn money at all, which is not true. There's so many ways to earn money, even in environmental work. And another thing, so it's the first thing is exchange programs between young people to have a chance to get to know like environmental working culture in different countries. And another thing I would say it's a lack of financial opportunities, because AmeriCorps is funded by the government, right? I can't imagine the program like that might be funded in my country by the government, because our budget is like pretty low and it definitely can't fund anything. And when I attended Revive, it was like kind of awesome thing for me, the fundraising thing, because like the money that you gathered during the Revive, it might be like 2 years budget for the Conservation Corps work in Georgia. So yeah, like those exchanges that exchange not just the ideas, but also culture and the experiences. And another thing, like financial support from developed countries. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Iya. Would one more person perhaps want to answer that question if they have any thoughts?
Yes, for me, I would like to highlight that I've been working for American organization so far, and it's Pantera, and they're basically giving grants to do different conservation work in many different countries, including Tajikistan, and also in developing countries. They're also training young professionals. For me, for example, I had zero experience, but they just gave me the opportunity to join a research group and contribute, and this way learn myself. And yeah, this is how they're empowering local people who basically have no other opportunity to grow and learn. Yeah, and I would also stress on the importance of exchange programs, both people from other countries coming here and people from here going to our countries and teaching and learning. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shahina. Here's another question for everyone. Maybe a couple people could answer. What sparked your initial interest in environmental conservation?
For me, I remember it was kind of a distinct shift in my mind. I listened to a TED Talk about the fungal networks in the forest and how trees talk. And since then I was like, oh, this is amazing. And since then I just started getting more into, I was really into zero waste and circular movement for a little while. And then I slowly transitioned into more conservation and just general environmental science. Yeah, I don't know, that's from me.
For me, I think that it all started when I was young, through stories from my grandparents. So in Ghana, back home, my family's totem is the African grey parrot. And then, my grandfather used to tell me so many stories about how the African grey parrot is very important to our family and to our tribe. And I mean, growing up, I've always had those stories to heart. And so when I went to college and I was presented with the opportunity to study animal biology and conservation science, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And after studying, I went to do an internship with the Ghana Wildlife Society, and it was like magic. They were also like BirdLife International partner in Ghana, and most of the activities that they were doing was to protecting birds. And they had a project where they were like studying African grey parrots and studying how, you know, the pets trade and then trafficking of the parrots, international trafficking of the parrots, illegal trafficking of the parrots has affected the populations of the parrots. And I was like, wow, this is definitely really my calling. So I think it just started from a young age, from the stories that my grandfather told me, and it has like led me into this field. And I think I'm still exploring. I'm still being inspired in so many ways. Yeah, pretty much. That's how I got into environmental work.
Yeah, thank you both so much for those answers. I appreciate that. And one more question here. if we get a couple answers for this, how receptive do you think the people in your home country are to messages of environment management and conservation?
I just jumped when I saw that one because I felt like whoever was asking was talking to me. I come from a place where the priorities are different. I mean, we've been going through a crisis, a civil crisis for the last 8 years or so. And so it's difficult to tell people about environmental management or prompt them towards action, excuse me, when all they're struggling to do is find a place to live, a safe place to be, and food to eat and water to drink. And so you have to kind of tailor your help to the needs that they have, which is definitely something I'm learning here. I mean, my interest in forest farming is not for nothing, or in permaculture. It's because these are ways in which both restoration can be met and food sovereignty, for example, can be solved, or just resilience in the face of crisis using different skills and crafts that you would learn in a permacultural setting, while it's a safe place for people to come and be, that has a status that's reassuring. So I think it's all about tailoring your message to the audience. It's not easy with the different settings.
All right. For me, I would say one of the tools that my organization is using in Nigeria to steer people's interest into environmental management is firstly making them to see the importance of environmental management, and we finding a bait or a way they can benefit from environmental management, say recycling, for example. So we go around to tell them about recycling and how they can bring their waste to get something, either food, either healthcare, or either a prize or a tool that they need. So people want to see what they would benefit from what they are doing. Like, they don't just want to believe that. So we've been trying to use that bait or that channel to make them see that, okay, see, if you do this, you can get this in return. And we believe by time or with time, they get to understand on their own that, oh, okay, without these benefits, this thing is actually to prevent flooding, to prevent malaria, and to prevent so many other natural disasters. Yeah.
Thank you both so much for those answers. And thank you everyone in the chat for submitting so many good questions. Unfortunately, we've run out of time here tonight, but we will get back to you with answers to those questions in a follow-up email. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us. Hope you've had a great time getting to meet Mide, Vanessa, Iya, Gabby, Raphael, and Shahina, and learning more about our international program. If you're interested in supporting our work and helping us continue to run this incredible international core program, you can make a gift to our end of year campaign, and the link to this campaign will be sent out in a follow-up email as well. Thank you all again so much, and hope you have a great night.